Welcome to Deep Dive with Dr. D. The entire goal of this podcast is to help you see that you have it within you to do amazing things. Welcome back, everyone. If you've been following along, the last couple episodes have been what I term some of the darkest periods of my life with active addiction. And with what I'm going to share today, I'll share a couple snippets from journals. Also, it was a really dark period with my mental health. And as I run up to starting to record these, I tell my story, and I'm doing this podcast with the tagline of I want to help people see that they have it within them to do amazing things. But I say that while doing this, it's hard. Like, I encourage other people to tell their story, to speak loudly about the power of recovery, and with that, sharing the hard parts. But even though I'm, decades away from the hard parts, it's always still a little tough to do that. Because I can go back when I read my journal entries, the mid-90s, and as I progress through this, I'll go through some mental health crisis in the early 2000s, and then I returned to active use for a short period of time in 2006. And those are some dark periods, and I can easily, those emotions can come back. And so it's, I do this because I want to help others, and I'm also mindful that it's not easy to do this. And so if you follow me and you listen, I would encourage you, as you tell your story, to make sure that you're in a good place to do this. That if you share your story and those dark periods of your own life, that you have support and you have resources, because it's not easy, like I said. So the last episode, I left off, I had, it was a transition period of my life. This was 95, the late 95, early 96. And I left off with my journey of, I was really trying to stay off of meth for sure, wanting to quit everything, but kind of, tapering off, which many people do. And so but I had also, at the first of the year, I have a journal entry that on January 1st of 1996, I committed to being in recovery again. I had been in recovery once before for a short period of time, and I have that journal entry where I said, okay, this is the time, 1/1 of 96, that I am going to be sober again. So I'll read that journal entry. Tuesday, January 2nd, 96. Day 1 was a success. It was hard because I was tested and I almost failed. I say again, almost, in quotations. I succeeded in resisting the temptation. I go tomorrow to get into treatment. I must continue to move forward, not looking back. I know that I'm a better person off drugs. Hopefully God will help me through the tough times and keep me on the straight and narrow. Love, David. And that's, like I said, dated January 2nd of 1996. And the last podcast I also read, I won't read it again, but I would go back and drink in a couple weeks after that. And, immediately, I remember just, obviously alcoholic drinking, and I would commit another crime and then just sit with that anxiety, like, oh my God, am I going to get caught? When I say on that January 2nd date, I would go tomorrow to get back in treatment, I was indigent, meaning I didn't have a job, I didn't have any resources, so I was relying on the state, and I'm really grateful that I had taxpayer-funded treatment, because I wouldn't be where I am today. So I actually support that in my life today as a taxpaying citizen, but I had to wait, is what I was getting to. So I wouldn't end up back in treatment until the end of February. So I had this transition period from January to February, and then I have a journal entry of me back in treatment in March. And it was difficult. I'm certain I was, going to meetings, and I was trying to stay with positive people. I had the support of family. With that, it was tough. I needed to be in treatment. Treatment is all about, when you think about inpatient treatment, the value of inpatient treatment is it takes a person out of their environment and puts them in a closed environment with their peers, with counselors, with support. And it's kind of a reboot. There's a reason treatment generally is 21 to 28 days or longer, because it takes us about a month to develop or change or create a new habit. So that's the value of treatment. But I had that about 2-month period. And when I was preparing for this one, I read a journal entry from February 19th of 1996. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. 5 pages long. Most of my journal entries in this journal that I have are 1 page. This was 5 pages, and I am not going to read the whole thing, but I am going to read a little bit because it really shows the tough spot that I was in, the real darkness of wanting a different life, but not knowing if I would be able to get that. So let me just read a little bit. Monday, February 19th, 1996. Today is one of those boring days when I have no place to go and nothing to do. It's these days that give me the feelings I hate. The feelings of low self-esteem and the feelings of nothingness. I hate these days, and I wish I didn't have to go through this. I want to have days where I can have things to do, days where I can feel like I have meaning and substance. I hate these days. No money, no job, no place to be, no place to go, no one to call, no one to go see, no one calls me. It seems that no one cares and no one wants to see me. I feel like, or I should say, and I go on, and I'm not going to read this, I go on to project out feelings about a family member and how they don't want me around and how they're negative. And it was just really a lot of negativity outward. And in the later pages, I just continue to diatribe about just my negative view on the world around me. And I remember this place I was in. I didn't want to get out of bed, but I had to. I was living at my sister's. She had 6 young children. They were a very active family. And I was sleeping on the couch in the living room. And I remember just oh my God, I hated my life at this time. I was carrying the weight of all that I had created in my life. The destruction of the previous year and a half in active addiction with methamphetamines and all of the behavior. When you come off of this drug, I was experiencing that detox. Literally, I was detoxing at my sister's, and just the weight. I remember the mental weight that I carried with me. So it's not a surprise that I didn't have this. So let me read. It's just the last page. So remembering this was 5 pages of what you heard at the beginning, just negative view on myself, the world, and people around me. I wish I had somewhere to go. Right now I sit in disgust with myself and my surroundings, hating life and sometimes wanting it to end. There are times when I want it to be all over. Done. Ended. I wish there was another way I could be restarting my life, but there isn't. Right now there's nothing. There's just me, myself, and I. Nobody to talk to, nobody to listen, nobody to care. I hate this life I have right now. I hate this world at this moment. I hadn't read that in a long time until literally just a couple hours ago when I was getting ready for today. Now I want to start lifting this up because it was really dark. And I say this for people in recovery, for people who have struggled with trauma in their past. I don't live in my past today. Like I said, I hadn't read that journal entry in a while. Heal from your past. I've been fortunate to have now healed from this past. From those, I haven't had a dark day like that in a long, long, long time. Why? Well, because I've had access to counseling. I get up, I get in treatment, and then I start surrounding myself with people that help to lift me up. And then I do the work. Like everyone says, you did the work, David. I absolutely did. But I also say this as a person in long-term recovery. I have not achieved any of the success I've had in my life as a whole without the help of people around me. And so I started tapping into that. So if you're in a tough place, I hope for you that you have access to resources, that you can lift yourself up, that you can surround yourself with people that will start supporting you in positive ways. And so I have a journal entry, and I remember this. I have a journal entry from about, let me go to the page. So that really dark journal entry is 219. And just a few days later, I have a journal entry from Saturday, February 24th of 1996. Well, I have court Monday. I hope that all goes well so that I can begin treatment on Wednesday. So I was just waiting to go into treatment. My feelings now are mixed. Today is another one of those boring days with nothing to do and no place to go. Oof, I remember that. I have Tyler this weekend. My son was 6 years old at the time. I have Tyler this weekend, and I'm glad for that. I hope to quit smoking when I go to treatment, which I did, and I'm really glad I did. Along with everything else, of course. That is my plan anyway. I must say I miss being in a relationship. I miss having someone to hold, someone to care about. I miss the companionship, but I know it will come in due time. Love, David. Now, let's just go to that journal entry because this is the light starts. I wish you could see the writing because that writing of those 5 pages of the darkness, and then you see this writing, and I'm going to read it. Wednesday, February 28th, 1996. Well, I'm back at Olalla. That was the treatment center that I'd been to once before, and I'm back again. Things went well today. Just a day of readjusting to the treatment atmosphere. Hopefully tomorrow I'll meet my counselor. That is great. I get back to treatment. And my friends, this is where, so my sobriety date, I had quit all drugs. I remember the last time I had quit meth. My last drink was that last time I went out to drink in the middle of that January, and it was just chaos. I don't think I had drank any more since then, but I remember the last time I smoked pot in this time period of my life. It was not a positive experience. And this is what happens for drinking and drugging is, you get that initial high, and then really you're always just chasing that high. And for me, even smoking pot wasn't fun anymore. And I think for me, because I had so much weight that the drug didn't help. It actually made me more depressed, more paranoid, more blah, like that 5 pages of negativity. It didn't help. And so I remember the last time I smoked pot would have been February 20th because my sobriety date was February 21st. And I remember I was just like, yeah, I'm done. And I wanted to, because I had been to treatment before, I wanted to go to treatment with as clear a mind as possible. So 2/21 of 1996 would be my sobriety date for over 10 and a half years from that point. And I would go to that treatment on 2/27. And treatment was good. That second treatment, this is funny. I should have grabbed it and pulled it over here. The second treatment I went to was one where I really paid attention. Like the first time I went to treatment, which was about 3 years prior, 4 years, I paid attention. Like I remember that first treatment, but I remember them like, you need to quit everything. And I hadn't really bought into that. I needed to quit crack cocaine. That's what I needed to quit. And I stayed sober for about 5 months after. But, because I didn't really buy into the complete sobriety thing, it was good. But the second time I went, I paid attention. I still have my little notebook. I took notes in every lecture I went to. I was all in with, I remember my group. I'm still connected with friends from that second treatment. And it was good. It was very positive. That would be my catalyst for my trajectory, really, to my life with what I have today, which is a lot. And it's amazing. As I was reading that real dark journal, and I remember that period where I had nothing, I had no place to go. No one was calling me. I didn't have, a good circle of influence. And I'm grateful for my sister. I say I didn't have anybody. I had my sister and Vern, her husband. My brother was doing the best he could to support me. So I had a couple people, but I didn't have a good circle of friends. I had to disconnect from all those friends that I had. So treatment was reinvigorating. Now, here's another cool thing that happened that was super helpful for me. Like, you'll always hear me talk about, because I had access to resources, I live an amazing life today. One, I got access to treatment again. Like I say, we keep treating until someone gets well. We do that with every other behavioral health condition. Why is it this one that we're like, well, they had treatment once, they must not want it bad enough? No, let's just keep treating. And I'm fortunate. I got that second episode of treatment. While I was at the treatment, I remember this guy coming. I still remember a lot of the presentations. I think for me, it was helpful that I was able to kind of be detoxed before I got there. Like, the meth had been gone. I hadn't done meth in a while. I hadn't drank in like a month and a half, and I had smoked pot, but I had tapered really everything down. And so I had a pretty clear head when I got there, and I was pretty eager. Oh, yeah, I forgot. So that thing that I said, and when I read that journal, I had court, and I was really hoping that I would be able to go to treatment. Ooh, I'm glad I remembered this. So I was facing sentencing for what would be my second felony conviction for burglary. The first charge was residential burglary. We did a plea, right? Most cases are pled out. You don't see a lot of court. Anyway, I remember my public defender, Mike McNerthy. He was a good guy, and I really know he went to bat for me. And he was the one that's like, dude, you got to turn this around. It's not going to be good. Because I was facing, I think, 6 to 12 months. I think, maybe more. I don't know. I don't remember. But I could have went to jail and not gone to treatment. And I was fearful of jail. I didn't like jail. People who say they like jail, no, I didn't like jail. There's something about hearing that door slam behind you and knowing that your freedom is gone. That is something that while I didn't like the life I had, it would just been worse in jail. And I was waiting to go to treatment. So the judge, I remember going to court, my brother came. My probation officer, I was already on probation. My probation officer, which is really not common, came and spoke on my behalf. And my attorney had spoken. I'm pretty sure my sister came. And, I was facing the sentencing for that second felony, which was now a second-degree burglary charge. And I had already pled guilty, so now it's, sentencing. And I'll never forget it. And I had seen this judge before. If anyone who's been in the world of active addiction, you get to know judges, and they get to know you. And but I had been doing positive actions to turn things around, and he recognized that. He was willing to trade day for day treatment and the things that I had been doing. Long story short, I was able to go to treatment. He put me on probation. I didn't serve a day in jail. I had already served like a week. I don't know if it was a week or something. And I had already done some other things. So basically what he said is, you've done these things. I believe that you are doing the right things. So I'm going to allow you to keep doing those things. I got to go to treatment. And so that was another huge catalyst for me. While in that treatment, there's when you're in inpatient treatment, what is it? What happens? You're in a setting with your peers, many people who have the same similar stories. We all have the same goal. We want to turn our lives around. You have counselors. You have your counselor that you meet with individually, and that's usually also your group counselor. You do group therapy, which can be a pretty powerful process. You get a regular schedule and nutrition. You start eating regularly. And I remember I used to walk the perimeter. They would, part of the every day or a couple times a week, whatever it was, we would walk, get outside, and you would go to lectures. There were a lot of different lectures on different topics. And I remember this guy coming out, and he was a person in recovery himself. And he talked about this program for people in early recovery. Man, I can just feel myself lifting up, getting out of that dark period. And he said, it's for people in early recovery. It was called the VOTE program, Vocational Opportunity Training and Education. It was held on a college campus. That freaked me out because at this point in my life, I just have a GED. I had just done the jobs I had done. I'm a military veteran. Going to college was not even close to being on my radar. But he said it's held on a college campus. You go, it's for people in early recovery. So you're with your peers. People that work there, like himself, are people in recovery. He had been in prison, had gotten out, had turned his life around, was in recovery, and now he worked for this program. You went, it was like your job for 7 weeks. You went to this program. It was at Pierce College in Lakewood. And you went there Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. And it was 7 weeks. And this was again, a mid-90s. And it was a state-funded program. It was funded by state and maybe federal dollars. I don't remember exactly. So the cost was nothing. They even said if you needed a ride, they would give you bus tokens. I remember I used to ride all over Pierce County with these little Pierce County transit bus tokens you got for different reasons. But they said, well, we'll get you there. But you got to show up. You got to participate. And that, I have a German Shepherd named Johnny. And when they tilt their ears, their big ears tilt, that made my ears tilt. It piqued my interest. Oh, so what are the requirements for graduating from this program? Well, they had one of two requirements to graduate from this program, and it was either you get a full-time job or you're enrolled in school full-time at the end of the 7 weeks. And I remember going up and talking to them afterwards and signing up to go to this program. I don't know if I signed up right there. It was probably a phone call. This is 96. So, the internet's just starting. Alas, I said alas, Megan. I'm trying to say alas yet. A follower says I say alas a lot. So I'm trying to say alas, but I just said it 3 times. So I guess that's it for this episode. I signed up. I did while in the treatment. So the treatment was successful in that I would end up staying in recovery for 10 and a half years. So that reboot really helped me. I did meet a girl while in treatment. This was a co-ed treatment. Karen, I think was her name. If I actually kind of have an idea of opening a type of treatment center unlike anything else we have. And I don't think I would do co-ed. I think it's just really hard for people in early recovery. Boy meets girl. And it happened for me in that treatment. I met a girl. My relationship issues would continue Fortunately, I wouldn't end up back in use, but me and Karen had eyes for each other. She was married, and so there was that. And you weren't supposed to, in treatment, it was kind of taboo to really, they wanted the boys and girls to keep separate. But, you get people in early recovery and they're turning their lives around. Oh, I'm in love. And so we were in love. It didn't affect my treatment. I did good treatment while I was there. I paid attention, but I did met Karen. So I left treatment, and let me peek here, see if I can do this without wasting too much time and having too much of a delay. I would get out of treatment and go back to my sisters. So here we go. Let's see, 224, 35, 39. Here we go. Okay. So I would leave treatment successfully. Treatment would be good. So 3-5, treatment's going well, and I'm gaining knowledge to take with me on the outside. I sometimes feel I'm not getting enough, but I will pray and God will answer. March 9th, well, I've been told I should write more of my feelings, so here I go. I feel at this moment, oh, this is good, a sense of security. In the moment I'm in, I like today. I felt some fear of what other people think of me. So I chaired our open AA meeting with a girl named Crystal who was apprehensive about doing one. Well, it went off with a bang. My feelings of insecurity are gone. Awesome. So this is in treatment. And then I get out of treatment. So I'm pretty sure that it was 21 or 28 days. I get out of treatment and I go home to my sisters. Oh, I haven't said this during this podcast period of time. This is our joke. That everything I owned at this time of my life, everything I owned fit in a small hall closet at my sister's. And this house, it wasn't a big closet. Everything I owned fit in that small hall closet. And I slept on her couch. At this time, she's married. She has 6 kids and they had a lot going on. And this was not a big house. And it was our joke that my sister would send me to my room, that closet in the hallway. But I get out of treatment and I go back to my sister's. And it was, I remember, it was when you leave treatment, you usually I've been a counselor, right? Now I end up being a counselor later in life after this period. You get a treatment plan. Like, what are you supposed to do post-treatment? Usually it's you go to more counseling, you go to meetings, you do some type of support, you get a job, you do these things. But I can tell you, like, just leaving treatment was like, oh God, now what? Right? And I went back to my sisters and my mental health, my anxiety, my stress just was like, whoo. And I didn't have a job. I think I was signed up to go to that vote program, but it wasn't starting for a while. I remember calling my social worker, and there was you can kind of step down that inpatient treatment. So you go to inpatient treatment, you're away from the world, you're in a controlled environment, and there's a step down from that where you still stay at a place, you get treatment, but during the day, it's expected you go out, you go to school, or you go to work. And I think what had happened is I had initially said I didn't need that. I don't remember what the case was. So I got out of inpatient treatment and literally just went back to my sister's. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any place to really be. And it was scary. And I remember calling my caseworker and saying, hey, I need more treatment. And at the time, this is mid-90s in Pierce County, the system was overwhelmed with people needing treatment. So there was a wait list everywhere. Like, I had to wait to get into that treatment, I think 2 months or something. And she said, I remember her saying, okay, I'll put you on the list and I'll let you know if something opens up, but it could be a month. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I remember just crying, and I remember my sister and Vern being there, and my social worker calls me back like almost immediately within an hour, the same day. She calls me back and she says, I don't know what happened, but she was on her computer or whatever. She says, a spot just opened up at a place called Prosperity House in Sumner. But here's the catch. I'm like, okay, what's up? You have to go today. So what do? What happens psychologically? I'm like, oh God, no, oh my God, I don't want to go today. Can I go tomorrow? And I'll just never forget my sister and Vern, her husband at the time, me talking to them, and I'm freaking out about going back to, not going back, but going to this other treatment, because it would be 90 days where I would stay there and get more treatment. And I'm grateful for my sister and Vern that they helped me to see, you need to go. You need to go today. So I went to that treatment because I have another journal entry on 3/21 of 96. I went to Prosperity House in Sumner, Washington, and it's basically more treatment, but it's a kind of a step down. You get a little more freedom, right? And so my journal entry from 3/21 of 96. Okay, I feel angry as hell. I don't like not being able to use a damn phone that you have to put money into. This bed sucks. This place is nasty. I want to talk to Cindy. Cindy was her name. It wasn't Karen. I want to talk to Trish. Trish was a friend that I had made in early recovery. She's amazing. I want some control back. I don't want to be here right now. Today really sucked, and this weekend will suck until Sunday when I can leave. Hopefully I'll be able to get a hold of Cindy tomorrow so I can let her know what's going on. Good night, David. And it's like big, bold. You can just feel the anger, like the frustration. So here I literally, in a 24-hour period, I went from getting out of inpatient treatment, getting full freedom. I could have kept that, saying, no, I need more treatment. And then I go to Prosperity House, and then I'm pissed off because they had a blackout period for the first, I think it was 72 hours. You had to stay at the facility. You couldn't use the phones. They just wanted you to, get back. And I remember too, I was mainly pissed because I couldn't talk to Cindy, that girl I had met at Olalla, who was married anyway. I shouldn't have been talking to her. So I end up back in treatment, and all in all, it was a really, really good decision because I was in early recovery, brand new early recovery. I was pretty serious about it, but also I was not making some of the best decisions when it comes to women. So now I'm in this treatment, and I'm seeing a married woman who's also in early recovery. She was living in Bremerton, and I'm just thinking about this. I'm really fortunate that I was in that environment where I could manage the breakup, because that relationship couldn't continue, right? I could not, and I was struggling, right? So I'm new in recovery, and my morals are kind of coming back, and I know I should not be seeing a married woman. It's ridiculous, but it was love and blah, blah, blah. No, it was sex. That's all it was. It was dumb. Prosperity House would turn out to be really, really good for me. I would also so me and Cindy would realize that we need to not see each other, but I would meet who would be my second wife, Sue. In that treatment, not right at all. She wasn't a counselor, but she was kind of a babysitter for us on night shift, and her and I met and fell in love, blah, blah, blah. No, it was sex. But that would help me in the relationship to the married woman, because I remember Sue saying to me, you got to make a decision here, because I'm not going to get involved with you if you're seeing a married woman. So it would actually help me disconnect from Cindy. And Sue and I we actually started dating while I was at Prosperity House. It would be at Prosperity House where I would really set the groundwork for my recovery. I started that vote program out at Pierce College. So Monday through Friday, I was going out there. I'll never forget walking onto a college campus, because, the other thing we received for completing this program is college credit. And that was like Whoa, wow, me? I can be a college student? At the end of the vote program, the 7 weeks, I was working and I was a full time enrolled student. This is where I would start earning credits, earning my degree to be a substance use disorder counselor. And at the same time, I was working. My very first job, I love telling this story to people in early recovery. I say in early recovery, get a job, any job, right? Get busy, get active. And that's the one thing that I was doing really well is I was getting active in repairing the areas of my life that needed repaired. My first job in early recovery was at a Subway in downtown Sumner, Washington, and it's still there. It was brand new at the time. And I remember thinking, because I was an Army veteran and I had had that cool job at Loomis, and there was part of me that my pride was like, oh, I'm working at a Subway. But you know what? I had a job. I was earning an income. I was being responsible, and I was responsible to be somewhere rather than what? Sitting with just my thoughts, which my mental health, I was struggling with depression. I think I had started seeing a counselor outside when I get out of Prosperity House. I think, yes. I actually have used medication along the way for my mental health, and it's been really helpful. But that first job was good for me. And I say this, while I was at Subway, I was the best damn sandwich artist in the land, right? And it was a catalyst. It propelled me to the next thing. I went from Subway into cooking. I worked at two different restaurants in Sumner. So I was working and I was going to school, and me and Sue were seeing each other. We moved in together. I was a dad again to my son. I was being the father I wanted to be. And that was a beautiful thing. I can just look at my journal entries and my writings, and you can feel through that writing the weight start to lift a bit. And it wasn't all perfect, but it was starting to lift. I had hope. I had hope. Like going. I was a college student, a high school dropout, GED kid from the streets, meth head, criminal. No, now here I am in early recovery. And now what I'm really describing is my first year in recovery. I got busy living. I was doing support groups, and I was, for me at the time, I was going to church, and I was working, I was being a dad, I was being more than a part-time dad. I remember I would volunteer at my son's school. My relationship with Cindy would start improving some. She was still with the one guy, I can't think of his name. I can't believe I forgot his name, but he was still struggling with active addiction. And when you get in recovery and you see active addiction, you're like, ooh, whoa, that's got to change. But things were really, really improving for my life. Why? Because I started living a life in recovery. And to this day, I early recovery, for people in long-term recovery, sometimes you long for that early recovery because it really is an exciting time. Like, I was starting to pay on my tickets. I was starting to pay for my bills. I wasn't getting arrested anymore. Boy, that was nice, right? I wasn't, having to stay up I was getting normal sleep. I was eating. I was running. I was exercising. I used to actually run up and down the stairs at the Sumner football stadium. Man, my life was really improving. And I think to close this one up, I'm going to see what I have for journal entries. So let me talk about Sue. Let's do that. So I met Sue in that treatment at Prosperity House. And I remember my counselor finding out, and I think Sue lost her job. No, she stayed there because I had left and she was there, and then she kind of left on her own. But it wasn't a healthy start to a relationship. Let's just be honest. I remember getting sick while at Prosperity House, and Sue was really caring for me, probably a little more than what she should. Not in a sexual way. We we didn't have sex until I think I had left treatment, maybe, but there was nothing there. But we wanted to see each other when I got out of that treatment, and we did. And I remember Sue, I think she told my counselor, who was one of the owners, Melissa, and it didn't go well. Because, right, as a counselor or anyone working there, you shouldn't be messing with the patients. But it was attractive to me. She was attractive, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to have sex with her. And so we would start seeing each other after I left, and it was after I left Prosperity House that I was still kind of seeing Cindy, the married woman. I was staying at my sister's, and then I remember the conversation that me and Sue had, because she was like, you got to make a decision. Either you're going to see her or me, but I'm not going to continue. And so I chose Sue, and I chose Sue because I couldn't have the married woman. I knew that I couldn't do that. And Sue was, you know, she had good qualities about her. She seemed to have her life together. She had a son who was just a little bit older than my son. But she paid attention to me. She showed an interest to me. And at that time I was like, okay. So I think we moved in together probably 3 or 4 months after starting to date. She was renting part of a house from this rich guy in Bonnie Lake. And so I moved out there. We moved in together, and then we got our own apartment in Sumner. We would end up having 2 different apartments. And boy, as I'm talking about this is also the period of time. Let me look through my journal to see. This morning I feel down, slightly negative. It was hard to get out of bed this morning, and it's hard being positive right now. I can't pinpoint the reason why, but I'm just trying to work through it as much as it needs its own time to feel. Life at times is hard to live, for I haven't lived my life in times past. I must pray for patience and understanding right now and turn it over to God, for God can handle what I cannot. That was June of 96. Another one of those days, struggle. I can read about my depression. I remember this was a real tough time depression wise. Here we go. Look at this. August 21st of 1996. Congratulations to me. 6 months clean and sober. First time in my life. First time in my life since I was 12 years old that I attained that length of sobriety. I've accomplished what I could not see. I must say that while life at times is most unbearable, I'm 100 times better off than I was a year ago. I have direction and purpose today. I have some peace of mind, and I really love being me a lot more than I used to. I have a strength to stand up for myself and be known. I have a need for good people to be in my life, and I care deeply about the people who I'm close to. I have a relationship with God today that I cherish, and I know when all else is going wrong, God is there for me. I have a life worth living and a sense of purpose. This is great. In big letters, I write, 6 months clean and sober. And here we go. September 10th, 1996. I feel like dancing this morning. My life is getting better each day that is going well. Busy. School starts in a couple of weeks. So fall of 96, I would start as an official college student. Me and Sue are growing together. I have days I don't want to try anymore, and I get really frustrated with the fact that I don't have enough time to do everything. It was a really busy time. I guess sometimes I just need to slow down on those days. Oh boy. Okay, so that is September of 96. Now, the next time I journal is March of 97. Although I have not written in here in a while, I have kept a voice journal. Oh, I wish I still had those. They were little cassette tapes. I would journal on this recorder. My life is going on without drugs and alcohol. On 2/21, I celebrated 1 year without drugs or alcohol. I still have a wonderful relationship with Sue. We have been together for over 9 months now. I hope to continue my recovery process for the rest of my life. I have good days and I have not so good days. Until next time, love, David. Okay. So that was March of 97, January 1 of 98. Happy New Year. I enjoy fresh starts. It hardly seems possible that in 2 more years it will be the year 2000. Me and Sue are now married. We get married June 7th of 97. Oh boy, what a year 97 was. I have deemed 97 to be the year of change, and that it was. to call 98 a year in words, I will say 98 will be the year of personal growth and financial success. So, I'm really running through periods of time, but me and Sue, we had good times together. I think when I think about, I call it marriage number 2, because it was, when I think about my time with Sue, she was really helpful in teaching me some financial health. She taught me how to run from a budget. Very, very good skill. Teaching me to get busy living, right? To set goals for myself, to strive for good. And that was all good. I'm briefly reading this. Oh yeah, so there I'm back in loss prevention. So I'm going to close this one up and say that me and Sue would not last. And the reason we would not last, well, kind of how we started wasn't real healthy. But for me, it had to do with parenting. She had her son who lived with her full time. And Tyler would come and at least every other weekend, and I would go visit him at his school. But I started seeing differences in how she treated her son compared to my son. Her son's name was Josh, and he was a good kid. But it came to a point for me where I could no longer deny that she was treating my son really in not good ways when I wasn't there. Tyler, my son, was a good kid. Like all kids have problems, but he was a good kid. And I would come home from work and she would tell me these stories of how Tyler was doing these things and Tyler was doing those things. And it was just really odd. If you're watching the video of this, I'm kind of looking like, no, that doesn't sound like my son. And Josh was kind of mean to Tyler. And so I tried navigating that. And then I finally just said, I can't do this. And so I moved out. And I would get my own place for the first time ever. So this is 98-ish, 98, late 97. And I would get my own place in Tacoma on Park Avenue, a little apartment. It was a house that was converted to a duplex, and I would get the top floor. And I remember my son coming over to that place, and I remember just crying. He was 8. Yeah, I think he was 8. Somewhere I have a picture of him, and just apologizing to him and saying that what your dad's showing you is not healthy, and just trying to talk to an 8-year-old as best you can, but I wasn't happy that I was getting a divorce. I didn't want to repeat that same behavior that I had witnessed my mom do. And that was tough for me. And, I remember him just being so kind and loving. And I think for him, he was happy to have his dad back. Because that relationship with Sue there was some dysfunction in it. So that's where I'm going to close this one. This has been nice to talk about my first 2 years of recovery in the late 90s. And it was really, really like there was struggle. I can read in that journal that there was struggle. I was struggling with depression and anxiety, but also on the flip side, I had a life. I had a life worth living, and I was moving toward positive things. And I was a dad again. Enjoy your day. Love to all. Thanks for listening to Deep Dive with Dr. D. You can follow me on my other social media channels by clicking the link in the description.